Once upon a time, in a bustling city filled with colorful street art and creative souls, lived a young woman named Maya. From a very early age, Maya had been drawn to the world of colors, brushes, and blank canvases. She dreamed of becoming a successful artist, someone whose paintings would resonate with people's hearts and minds. Yet, despite her deep passion and countless hours spent in her small studio, Maya's journey was far from smooth. Each morning, she would rise before dawn, eager to bring her ideas to life on canvas. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Maya found herself battling a storm of challenges. Her paintings struggled to find buyers, and the few who did show interest often criticized her work harshly. Some said her style was too unconventional. Others dismissed her themes as too personal and complicated to understand. These frequent rejections planted seeds of doubt in her heart. She began to wonder if her dream was simply too far out of reach. One particular evening, after a long day of trying to sell her paintings at a local market, Maya sat on the steps outside her apartment, her head heavy with discouragement. She watched as the city lights flickered on, illuminating the streets filled with people who seemed to have found their purpose. Maya wished she could feel that same certainty about her own path. Just then, her mentor, an older artist named Mr. Patel, happened to pass by. He noticed the sadness in Maya's eyes and sat beside her. "You look troubled, Maya," he said softly. "What's on your mind?" Maya sighed deeply. "I love painting, but it feels like no matter how much I try, I can't make it work. People don't appreciate my art, and sometimes I wonder if I should just give up." Mr. Patel nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. The road you're on is not an easy one. But tell me, are you willing to try something that might change how you see things?" Curious but cautious, Maya looked up. "What do you mean?" "I want to challenge you," he said with a gentle smile. "For the next month, I want you to create a new painting every single day. It doesn't matter if you feel uninspired or if the painting doesn't turn out perfect. The important thing is to keep going, no matter what." Maya hesitated. The thought of painting every day, especially when she often felt drained, seemed daunting. But something in Mr. Patel's eyes convinced her to accept the challenge. "All right," she said quietly. "I'll do it." The very next morning, Maya set up her easel and canvas, determined to meet the challenge. At first, the process felt mechanical. Each brushstroke was heavy with fatigue and frustration. The paintings she produced often seemed incomplete or flawed, far from the visions she had imagined. Some days, she struggled to even start, her mind clouded with self-doubt. One afternoon, after finishing a painting she wasn't proud of, Maya sat back and stared at the canvas. The colors clashed awkwardly, the lines lacked confidence, and the overall picture felt chaotic. She wondered if anyone would ever see the beauty she hoped to share. The temptation to quit whispered persistently in her mind. But the next day, she picked up her brush again. She reminded herself of the challenge and the promise she had made. Slowly, she began to notice subtle changes. The act of painting daily was teaching her patience and discipline. Even in her worst work, she found small elements she could improve. The daily routine was becoming a teacher, guiding her through the rough patches. Despite these small victories, frustration still lingered. Some days, the paintings felt like failures, and the nagging voice of doubt grew louder. Maya often questioned whether her efforts would ever lead to anything meaningful. Her friends sometimes asked why she continued to put so much time and energy into something that seemed to bring little reward. But Maya held on, driven by a flicker of hope and the desire to prove to herself that she could persevere. As the days passed, Maya's studio transformed into a gallery of unfinished stories and evolving emotions. Each painting was a reflection of her journey, some bold and vibrant, others muted and tentative. The process was teaching her more than technique. It was revealing the depths of her own resilience. One evening, as she set her brush down after completing her latest piece, Maya glanced around at the collection she had amassed over the weeks. She realized that through every struggle and every imperfect stroke, she had grown, not just as an artist, but as a person learning to face challenges head-on. Though the road ahead was still uncertain, Maya felt a quiet determination stirring within her. The challenge was far from over, and many more difficult days lay ahead. But with each painting, she was discovering a new strength, a willingness to keep moving forward, even when the path seemed unclear. And so, Maya continued her daily ritual, painting through the doubts and fears, embracing the process, and slowly but surely crafting her story one brushstroke at a time. Days turned into weeks, and Maya's commitment to painting every day began to shape not only her art, but also her spirit. Her mentor, Mr. Patel, observed her progress with a quiet smile. One afternoon, as the golden hues of sunset streamed through the studio window, he sat beside Maya, who was wiping paint from her fingers after completing another piece. "You've come a long way," he said gently. "How do you feel about the challenge now?" Maya sighed, a mixture of exhaustion and quiet pride in her voice. "It's been harder than I imagined. Some days I wanted to quit, but I also feel like I'm learning, bit by bit, even if the progress is slow." Mr. Patel nodded thoughtfully. "Perseverance is much like a seed planted in the earth. It doesn't sprout overnight. It needs time, patience, and care. Each day you paint, you water that seed, helping it grow stronger." Maya considered his words carefully. The metaphor made sense. Just as a seed needed nurturing before it could bloom, her talent and dreams required ongoing effort and belief. Then Mr. Patel presented her with a new challenge. "There's a local art exhibit coming up next month. I want you to submit some of your paintings." Maya's heart sank. The thought of sharing her work with strangers, and possibly facing rejection again, filled her with anxiety. "But what if they don't like my paintings? What if I'm rejected again?" "Fear of rejection is natural," Mr. Patel replied kindly. "But it's also a chance to learn and grow. You've worked hard, and it's time to let your art meet the world." With a mixture of nervousness and resolve, Maya agreed. She carefully selected a few paintings from her daily creations, some bold, some tentative, and prepared to send them off. When the day of the exhibit arrived, Maya's nerves were at their peak. She stood among other artists, their works displayed proudly, and felt small and uncertain. The critics moved through the gallery, scrutinizing each piece with sharp eyes. When they reached Maya's paintings, their comments were mixed. Some polite but dismissive, others blunt and harsh. "Too raw," one critic remarked. "Lacks refinement," another said. Each word felt like a sting, but Maya stood firm, reminding herself of the journey she had already taken. Still, the weight of their judgments pressed heavily on her spirit. Amid the crowd, however, Maya met another artist, a woman named Lena, who noticed the tension in her eyes. "First exhibit?" Lena asked with a warm smile. Maya nodded, her hands trembling slightly. "Yes, it's been difficult." Lena's eyes sparkled with understanding. "I've been there. When I started, I faced rejection after rejection. But I learned to see those as stepping stones, not walls. Every no brought me closer to a yes." Maya listened intently as Lena shared stories of her own struggles, how persistence and patience had led her to success. The conversation lifted a weight off Maya's shoulders, replacing doubt with a flicker of hope. Lena added, "Your art tells a story, and that story deserves to be heard. Keep going no matter what." Inspired by Lena's encouragement, Maya left the exhibit with a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that rejection was not the end but part of the path she needed to walk. Back in her studio, Maya resumed her daily painting with fresh energy. She embraced each new canvas as an opportunity to grow, to experiment, and to express her truth. The criticisms no longer felt like setbacks but lessons guiding her toward improvement. Though the road remained challenging, Maya's perspective had shifted. The struggle to share her work with others became a vital part of her journey, teaching her resilience and the importance of believing in herself. With every brushstroke, she moved closer to the artist she aspired to be, strengthened by the understanding that persistence was the key to unlocking her potential. Months passed since Maya's first exhibit, and with each new day, her passion for painting deepened. The lessons she had learned from rejection and encouragement had woven themselves into her creative process. What once felt like a daunting challenge had transformed into an inspiring journey of growth. Maya's daily paintings became more confident and expressive. She experimented with colors, textures, and themes, learning from each piece and refining her technique. Mistakes were no longer failures but valuable teachers guiding her hand and vision. She welcomed feedback even when it was critical, understanding that it was a tool for improvement rather than a judgment of her worth. One crisp morning, as she arranged her latest collection in her studio, a letter arrived inviting her to showcase her work in a prominent gallery downtown. Her heart raced with excitement and disbelief. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of but had once thought was impossible. The gallery opening was a night illuminated by soft lights and filled with art lovers, critics, and fellow artists. Maya's paintings hung proudly on the walls, each one telling a story of perseverance, hope, and transformation. Visitors admired her work, asking questions and expressing genuine appreciation. For the first time, Maya felt seen not only as an artist but as a storyteller whose voice resonated with others. Throughout the evening, Mr. Patel stood nearby, his eyes shining with pride. When Maya approached him, he smiled warmly and said, "You've come a long way, Maya. What do you think made the difference?" Maya paused, reflecting on the path she had traveled. "I think it was learning not to give up on myself, even when things were hard. I realized that every struggle was part of the process, and that perseverance was the key. Without it, I wouldn't be here tonight." Mr. Patel nodded, his expression gentle but firm. "Exactly. Talent is important, but it's the determination to keep going that turns dreams into reality." Maya's journey had transformed her mindset. She no longer feared failure or rejection. Instead, she embraced them as necessary steps on her path. Her story was no longer just about becoming an artist but about discovering the power within herself to persist and grow. As the gallery buzzed with admiration and conversation, Maya felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She understood that success was not a destination but a continuous journey marked by courage and resilience. And so, Maya's story became a testament to the truth that true power lies in never giving up. Through perseverance, she had turned her dreams into reality, inspiring others to do the same.